It is Friday night. That's right. The Skeptical Help Bar is open.
What?
Oh, yeah. In case you don't know, whenever I look over here, I'm looking at Donna.
Yeah, I'm over here.
The voice of Donna. That's in the background. Anyway, it's Friday night. Hello. I see a bunch of people already here. That is awesome. That is awesome. I'm happy about that because you guys spend your Friday night, or I think some of you might be across the pond. So it might be really, really early in the morning if you guys are watching this. And I really appreciate that if you are. Tonight, we have a guest. I'll get to him in a minute because he's in the background right now. But we have to go over rules. We have to say hi to some people because there's a lot of people coming in. I want to say hi to a few people. Smith, Para, Not Normal. I like that name. That's pretty cool. Jade Kitten's in the house. Dawn Marie. Fantastique Publishing. Nice. What else we got? What else? We got a lot of YouTubers in here. Dr. Jim's in the house. Diane. Daniel Reed. Carolyn D. Awesome. Entity 7 Paranormal. Joe. What's up, Joe? John Kennedy's in the house. Diana. Damn it, Bob. Tom's World. Oh, my goodness. Lots of people in the house. This is great. It's good to see everyone. All right. So let me find my overlay here and go that way. Oh, I did it right.
Yeah.
Usually I pick the wrong direction. All right. These are our rules. Let's go over them real quick. Rule number 1 is that you are welcome to ask questions, especially tonight, because this is a combination. Usually I have like an open mic night where you just ask questions and I talk all night, which is fun for me, but maybe not for you. But
or
then
me.
or Donna. And then also when we have a guest, it's great to ask questions because new people, new perspective, and this and that. And tonight, Ben Radford's going to be on, and we're going to talk a little bit about Bigfoot, and then we're going to talk about whatever questions you guys come up with. Rule number 2 is that I don't know everything. I try to, but it's impossible. And then my guest tonight, I mean, he doesn't know everything, but he pretends that he does. Rule number 3 is that we follow the Patrick Swayze rule here, and that's be nice. You can be in the chat room. You guys can talk, discuss, debate, disagree. That's cool, but please don't be a dick. If you start name calling, if you start getting personal attacks and stuff like that, Divine Donna will be over on that side, and she will boot your ass out of here, and you will never ever return again because we don't know how to unban people.
Yeah.
So
you're banned.
You're stuck in the phantom zone.
Yeah.
So there. Rule number 4 is that if you have a question, please do us a favor and put a capital Q in front of it. And that helps Donna put it in the queue for later when we get to the questions. And rule number 5 is my favorite. We're going Yingling tonight. Drink up. Mm-hmm.
Drink up. I have water.
And with that, let's bring on, let me get my special guest thing here and bring on our special guest, Ben Radford, who is, he I guess he's probably in Buffalo, right? Yeah, and he's in an office somewhere around here. He's freezing because we have I don't know. I think we went over 80 inches.
No. There's so much snow out there.
It's been snowing for a month.
It just doesn't stop. It's been snowing since Friday.
Just keeps going. And I've been watching
Friday.
outside these windows here, because there's actually windows. There's a patio out here, and I've been watching the snow go up the table.
It just keeps
and
piling
right now
up.
it's probably about a good 2.5 feet.
Probably.
Easy. It's 2.5 feet just on top of the table. So how are you, Ben?
Well, here's the thing. So as you know, yes, you and I were supposed to hang out last night and also tomorrow night.
Yes.
But my flight to Buffalo was canceled due to the weather, and it was just a big cluster. I won't say the rest. Anyway, so I was all prepared. I had my bags packed. I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this. And then so basically I got all bundled up, and then I realized that I'm not out there and we're doing this virtual, and this is kind of stupid. So I'm just
you gotta be hot by
I guess.
Yeah, you gotta be sweating. There you go.
That was a long road for that. Anyway.
But yes, we had you scheduled. You were going to come out here We're supposed to fly out or fly in here Wednesday night and hang out for a bit. And then Thursday, you were going to do a lecture. Friday night, you were supposed to be like right here next to me for the show. And then tomorrow night, we were going to Rochester to doing a Q&A at for a atheist group, I think. The I have
Skeptics in the Pub, I think it was.
Something like that. Oh, wait. Atheist Community of Rochester. That's what we're addressing.
Clearly, Kenny and I are very much on the ball.
Yes.
Hello, Rochester. Love you.
But yes, the snowstorm, the snowpocalypse kind of thing that hit us kind of derailed our plans, and you are still in New Mexico.
I am.
Yes. And but we continue with some of the plans. So we're going to do our show tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about Bigfoot, because you recently published a cover article, Bigfoot is Dead, in the latest issue of Skeptical Inquirer. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. And then we're also going to do open mic night, which is people have questions. Feel free to, again, put a capital Q in front of it, and we can talk about anything, like Bigfoot, cryptids, and UFOs, and ghosts, and hauntings, and weird shit like that. I know somebody already had a question. It's in the atrium. Nice.
Is that where you're going tomorrow? Or that's what you're doing tomorrow?
No, I don't know. That's not the name of the group. As far as I know, that's not the name of the group. But it's cool.
Someone's talking smack.
Yeah.
I think it's Michael.
I lost my train of thought. Where did I go? I'm not even buzzed yet. Damn it. I don't know. Oh, yeah.
Kenny, I'll save you. I got some news for you. So here's the deal.
Give me news.
So I actually got a validation that I am one of the world's top ghost hunters. Now, we all knew this. This is well known. Everybody, even people don't even know who I am, know that I'm at the top of the heap. Whatever. But here's the thing. So I actually got this, and I'm sure you don't have one, but this is actually done by a guy named Tom Richmond, who is a famous caricature artist. And so anyway, I want you to see right there. It says, "To Ben." Oh, shit. Well, whatever.
Yeah. Mine actually says the universe's greatest ghost hunter.
Okay. Well, anyway, there's that. So here's the thing. So I'm going to give a little shout out to Tom Richmond. He, as you guys know, I love caricature. He has this new book out, Claptrap. It's sort of the Mad Magazine style parodies and stuff. And I'm actually in here. But here's the thing. So you may be wondering, what about Kenny's book? So this is here's the thing. So I actually have a copy of Kenny's book here.
Oh, look at that.
That's
I
great.
think you have way too many bars there, Ben.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I was trying to be nice.
See, this is when you try to ask Ben to do something or to help out, and he says, "I'm too busy." This is the shit that he's doing. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna make Kitty's book cover right here," and I'm too busy to do any real work.
Whatever.
So busy that he has to send me the mysteries that he can't solve.
Okay, we can circle back to that. That was one time, maybe two. I'm sure that at some point you're going to donate. Okay. Okay. Oh no, you didn't. All right. What are the three mysteries? Okay, so there was the Radford photo.
Yes.
That I found in the book, which was a cool story.
It was a cool story.
Then there was the Home Alone.
Yes.
Which, to be fair, I did the groundwork on that.
There's a debate for that, but
okay. And then the third one, the only one I can think of there was a UFO photo.
That's it. There you go. See, three.
Orbs Are Us.
Orbs Are Us by Kenny. Actually, it was called Orbs Are Dust.
And I have a copy of that in on my bookshelf behind me.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. I think you were the first person that I didn't even send it to you. That was our mutual friend, Tanya.
That's
Kaiser. Right. She sent it to you to review.
I'm like, who's this Kenny guy? And she's like, psh, he'll never amount to nothing. But
haha, bitches, look where I am. All right, so this is great. I love this kind of guest where we can just bullshit. It flows. It's great. Bigfoot is dead. That's what this cover says. Bigfoot is dead.
Was he ever alive?
I know. Like, I think I asked that. Like, if something was never alive, can it be dead? Like, is a rock dead?
Well, right. So that's a fair question. So there's a caveat here, which is that, excuse me, the cover line was actually editor Stephen Hupp's idea. I tend to be a little more circumspect. I'm more like, I'd rather hedge on the side of like something that's
more to the point, like a question.
Is Bigfoot dead? Right? Exactly. So yeah, that's exactly right. So, but Steve's like, hey man, put it all out there. Bigfoot's dead, blah blah. So, and of course we got the covers by the great Celestia Ward.
Awesome covers. I love the work she's doing.
I love her work and chupacabras and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, it's a fair question, right? So I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I legitimately ask the question or write an article about whether Bigfoot is dead? And the way I tackled it was a couple things. I wanted to sort of do an overview, right? So there's been articles in SI on very specific parts of Bigfoot, right? So the late great Michael Dennett did lots of really great work in Skeptical Briefs and also SI many years ago,
right,
on dermal ridges.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And even Paul Kurtz, the great, PK who co-founded CFI way back in the day. I mean, he did a couple of pieces on that. So, what I wanted to do was to sort of give a sort of a forest for the trees, right? A sort of step back. And so it's all well and good to talk about like the specifics, like, is this Bigfoot fingerprint real? Well, no, or X, Y, Z. But I wanted to say, okay, well, let's take a step back and say, okay, well, Bigfoot, again, depending on when you start counting, has been around for certainly decades. And the question is, okay, well, after all this time, where's the evidence for it? And I wrap up the article by saying, if Bigfoot is dead, the irony is that we may never know it, because
right.
It's you could almost make the same argument for the existence of God. How much have I drank? Hold on a second.
Yeah, take another swig. Get yourself balanced.
So it's like if and frankly, we could say the same thing about ghosts, right? Is like if the evidence for ghosts is so ambiguous, so incredibly ambiguous, it's like it's orbs, it's this or that, it's something out of somebody's eye, someone saw something. If it's that ambiguous, how do we distinguish that from it not existing at all? So There you go.
Right. And with Bigfoot, I think it's just part of the pop culture. It's so ingrained into. I mean, I have displays out here. I have toys. I have books and little figures and stuff. And when I see something Bigfoot related, I usually get it because I'm like, hey, it's cool. I like it.
Absolutely.
But it's so part of our culture. It will never go away. I don't think it'll ever go away. And there's some things, and agree or disagree, let me know. But like when we look back at the Patterson-Gimlin film, I mean, for me, I see a person in a costume, but I don't think we can ever prove it definitively 100% because there were only 2, maybe 3 people there,
depending on which story you believe, right?
Yes, and that's it. And one of them passed away. I don't know the guy that claimed to be in the suit. I don't know if he's still alive.
So Roger Patterson died fair number of years ago. Bob Gimlin is still around. I've never met the man. He comes out for the he shakes his hands and signs autographs and this and that. And I'm pretty sure that Bob Hieronymus has died, although I could be wrong.
Okay.
He is, now to be clear, he is one of the people who claim to be in the suit. So, I've always shied away from saying. I mean, there's a. I'm looking over here if I don't have it here. There's a book. It's in the other room, but there's a book called it's by Greg Long. It's like, I think it's called The Making of Bigfoot. And so in that book, it's a very well researched book on many things. Even if you don't think that Bob Hieronymus was telling the truth about being in the suit, the other parts of the story, the other research around it, the other 80% of it is pretty solid, and it doesn't paint a very flattering picture of the veracity and truthfulness of Roger Patterson.
Right. And then when we move on from there, I mean, that everything else that came after that seems like shit. I mean, we have before that we have the Wallace prints.
Yeah, the Ray Wallace prints.
Ray Wallace prints, and that's really what I did. I think the Patterson-Gimlin film is the one that made it explode into pop culture.
Exactly.
But it was still going on a year before that. Ray Wallace was doing these footprints, and that turned out to be a hoax.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And it wasn't just, I mean, that's the thing. Because I said Ray Wallace was a logger, and it's not like he just like one summer he decided to go out and make footprints for like years, like decades. This guy would put it, and again, he's a logger. He's out there in the remote wilderness.
Right.
So you can imagine somebody coming across like, oh my God, like there's nobody here. I'm in the remote wilderness. There's this big footprint. No hoaxer would be out here. except for the guy down there who's logging.
Yeah.
And so you can see how for a lot of people this would be like very compelling and stuff. And then you have like some of the Bigfoot believers will say, okay, well, they will admit that Ray Wallace made at least some of the tracks because that's pretty much undeniable. I mean, that's you really can't refute that. It's okay, yeah, but he didn't make all the tracks. Right. Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough. I mean, and you hear the same argument about, for example, crop circles. When you look at the original crop circles were made by Doug and Dave, the prankster guys, like, you know, nobody ever claimed that Doug and Dave made every single crop circle. They made many of them, and they were copycats, and copycats of copycats. And the same thing with Bigfoot tracks. So you know, there's lots of sort of moving parts to the Bigfoot mythology. And what you find is that you know, when you try and question one of them, people get their hackles up. Like, oh well, how dare you challenge this grainy, sketchy, you know, ambiguous footage from '67? Well,
yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I understand that one guy that is exposed as a hoax, like we know he was doing it. I believe one of his the family brought out one of the wood carvings that he had made, and they were able to actually match it up with some of the prints. And yeah, I get it. That doesn't explain all of the prints. Doesn't mean he made all the prints, but that should be a red flag to everyone saying we need to look closer, because this guy went for decades fooling people, decades without getting caught. And
So I mean, you have what Ray Wallace's admitted role in fabricating at least some of the prints, not all of them, but at least some of them. And then you have cases like the Bigfoot butt print, which is the Skookum calves. Yeah, and it's a long, complicated story. I won't go into the whole thing, but basically, some of the field's top experts, you know, top men, as they say at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, were coming out, and they had this like super team of like, you know, just, you know, there was Jeff Meldrum, there was Rick Knoll, there was Matt Moneymaker, of these legitimately, you know, who some of the top people who would be considered still active in Bigfoot research. And they went out to this area, and they set out some baits and traps, and they put, for example, some apples. And then they came back later and they said, well, there's this big print in the mud. What was it? I'm thinking, I don't know. You set the bait. What was it? Oh, we didn't. There was something they forgot to film it, or they didn't turn the camera on, or the batteries died. There was some like, wow. Yeah, it's like you're supposed to be like the best in the game. Yeah, it's like you have the funding, you have the names, you have all these sorts of things. And you go out there for the intent of capturing evidence of Bigfoot, you lay a trap, and you don't know what ate the trap. Really?
Like, I'm getting this vision of like a bunch of guys out in the woods, decked out in camo, and going, all right, guys, we got the corn, we got the apples, we got potato chips, we got everything in this big pile here. All right, are we forgetting anything? Anyone? No.
No, we got everything, dude. Right.
Oh, the cameras.
Oh, right.
Record everything.
And so, and it gets even worse because when they come back, and there's again, this was a huge. I mean, in the Bigfoot timeline, which is in the middle of the article, it talks about that. they came back and they were elk prints, like prints that were clearly made by elk all around this. But they're like, well, those are elk tracks, but this isn't an elk track. And then right, so yeah, you're like, okay. And then so Matt Crowley, friend of the show and one of the stars of Circus of the Scars, who's done lots of stuff, and Matt. So a friend of his, Anton Orlowski, did some research on it, and he looked into this and said, this is an elk wallow. Like, you guys, an elk came in here, just like all the elk tracks all around it. Well, it sat down, it rubbed it, and they got up and it went away, and that's what that was. And and to this day, I still, this has been, I forgot the year, it's been 15, 20 years, and to this day, I still haven't had any good explanation for why some of the world's best equipped, supposedly most knowledgeable Bigfoot experts couldn't figure out what it is that took their bait.
I like this comment, like the funding goes if the search ends. I mean, yeah, I see that with a lot of these shows. I mean, and you mentioned this in the article, and it's always been a joke. And I try not to make, like, I try not to make fun of people, except for like Baggins. But yeah, I mean that there's some exceptions to the rule there.
Sure.
But like, you have a show where you title it "Finding Bigfoot," but yet you never do. Like, you never do. I mean, that's one. It takes balls, I think, to name your show that and not produce.
Well, at least after the third season, put a question mark after it. I mean, come on, just like truth in advertising, guys.
Or change it, looking for Bigfoot.
Right. Like, making a half-ass attempt at a Bigfoot show. Call it something sensible.
Yeah. And it's just that kind of stuff that gets me. Like, hey, if you think this creature is real, then that's one thing. Go out and look at it, but pay attention to what you're doing. Use proper methods and bring your cameras for one. Make sure you bring them, and pay attention to the surrounding. I mean, if you're there and you have this print, which according to them, they thought that they had a large mammal's left forearm, hip, and thigh and heel imprint.
And balls. I don't know if it says that, but there was discussion of, like, so I remember very clearly because I saw the Skookum cast at a Bigfoot conference in Idaho that I was invited to, and I remember very clearly. So it was a big. I mean, the thing is like 3 feet by 8 feet. It was a big thing, and I remember someone pointing out with a pen. It's like let me get my pen out. It's like, if you look here, this is one of Bigfoot's testicles. I'm like, really? You seem to know a lot about this. And they're like, if you they're just sort of going, it was like, wow.
It's, a while back, who was I talking to? I think I was doing my other show, The Three Tortured Souls, and we were talking about
show, by the way.
Thank you. We were talking about Bigfoot and talking about like population and the 5,500 rule, stuff like that. And there was a conversation, I think, that happened more off air about how does Bigfoot hang? Like, is it one of them like a horse that goes inside, or is it like hanging out there? Because like every depiction, it's like an action figure. It's
Melba Ketchum could maybe enlighten us. I don't know.
We can get into that in a minute or so. Oh, all right. So we got the Skookum thing, and later on that was identified, right, by paleontologist.
Yeah, it was very clearly. But to this day, the Matt Moneymaker, the head of the BFRO, he doesn't want to talk about it. He's been asked. In fact, like the other day, a couple months back, someone's like, "Hey, I'm going to go see Matt Moneymaker. Do you want me to ask him anything?" I'm like, "Yeah, ask him if he finally admits that he got an elk track." Wow. And he just, he just insists, no, it was a Bigfoot. And Moneymaker, I mean, he also was fooled by Penn and Teller's hoax video. I mean, and this is the problem. And this is, Kenny, this is one thing that you and I have talked about, is that it's not that we're making fun of people who believe in Bigfoot or ghosts or anything else. Our problem is, our beef is they're not doing it right. Just do it right. It's like, these are cool topics. Bigfoot, ghosts, all these weird things. Just do, Do the job right. Put in some effort, man.
Don't deceive. Don't lie. Don't push aside or ignore things because you really want that belief. And that's something we've talked about a lot, where so many people just ignore the facts because it doesn't fit in with their belief, and they want it so bad. Some of it, some people, moneymaker, want the attention and the money that comes with it, and they will do whatever they can in order to get that attention. And it's sad because, like, with the Skookum cast, like, if you have elk prints all around after you set your pile of bait, like, if you have elk tracks all around and you're gonna actually come on record and say, well, yeah, all these tracks all around here, these are elk, but this one right in the middle, no, that's Bigfoot.
No, Clive, it was a Bigfoot jumped in there like on the $6 Million Man. He jumped in. He rubbed his butt in the mud, got a little wiggle, and then jumped out.
Yeah, it's just like, just look at the. It's common sense. It really comes down to common sense. Look at what you're presented. Occam's razor. Look at it and just say, well, no, this is probably an elk that tipped over, it slipped, got an imprint, and then got up, walked off.
It was eating the stuff that you laid out for it,
right?
And then it left.
And there's no indication that it's anything else except for that. And then move on. What are you laughing at?
I'm sorry.
People are all like on Bigfoot.
I'm sorry.
There you go, Cat. Cat's got it figured it out.
She did. Somebody has to figure it out.
There you go. I've seen Bigfoot riding Loch Ness. I know he does that. So
there's a photo, right?
There is a photo. I saw that. Riding unicorn and all that shit too. But you mentioned the Sonoma video.
Yeah.
Which was another one that it was supposed to be a Bigfoot. And I'm cheating off of your notes here.
That's okay. If you're reading from what I wrote, it's correct. So.
Oh, let's not get into that. Nah, that's good. It depicts a dark figure in a grassy area. Some prominent cryptozoologists, including Lauren Coleman, Steve Coles, who's been on the show. We've both talked to him. Are skeptical, but others, including Moneymaker, they heartily endorse it as authentic. And they made a website post saying they're confident that it's not faked or anything like that. And then it turns out the next year, Penn and Teller on an episode of Bullshit, and you have it here. I have season 1, 2, and 3. I don't have 4. So I'm looking for anybody has that wants to donate it. Let me know. But
season 4 or what?
Of Bullshit. Penn and Teller's Bullshit. Great show. I love it. But they admit and show footage of them hoaxing this. They were the ones behind this. And even with everything right in the face of that, you still have people like Moneymaker just saying no. It's not. He ignores it. That's not.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have anything against Matt Moneymaker. I've never met him in person, as far as I know. I do remember when the Skookum cast made news. I was writing at the time. I was writing for Discovery News, and I got a call from, I think it was New Scientist magazine, asking me about it, and like, hey, Ben, you're the Bigfoot guy. Here's this, there's apparently this, Bigfoot track, not just a track, but a butt print, the whole thing. And so I contacted Moneymaker. I said, hey, can I see it? Right. And he's like, no. I'm like, okay. Well, I mean, it's, it's private property. I mean, I can't force him to get me to see it. Right. At the same time, like, well, I am certainly at the time one of the top Bigfoot skeptics in the world. I mean, there's me and maybe 2 other people. It's like, why wouldn't you want, even if you think I'm full of shit, even if you don't want skeptics anywhere near it, why wouldn't you want me as, and he's like, well, you don't have the expertise. I'm like, what's your expertise? He's like, I'm a lawyer. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, he's got a law degree. Okay, well,
oh my God.
And again, whatever. I mean, it didn't hurt my feelings, but it was really revealing to me that he didn't want anybody who seemed to be at all skeptical anywhere near it.
Yeah.
And so whatever. I mean, again, it's just frustrating to me as a sort of, part-time cryptozoologist and things like that to just, again, as I said, to have this genuine mystery and have people who don't seem to care about solving the mystery. That's frustrating. It's like, come on, man. It's like, just let's get on board, clear out the hoaxes. The people who have been hoaxing things, ban them. It's like, you don't get two bites at the apple, so to speak.
Right.
You have all these people, some of whom are associated with Jeff Meldrum, who I like, who are just, there's all these Bigfoot hoaxes and stuff, and the Bigfoot community. I wrote a piece about this last year, sort of the paranormal Wild Wild West. There's no, in many ways, of course, it's the same with ghost hunting, where there isn't the will or the ability to weed out the liars and the hoaxers. They just, it's all lumped together, and they don't seem to care. And it's only people like us. Well, I mean, not just us. I mean, there's others as well, but it shouldn't be the skeptics who are constantly trying to get them to improve their research.
It's like the skeptics are put in the role of the bad cop. You have good cop and bad cop, and everybody in the community tolerates everything, and they want to be the good cop and get along with people. And I've seen it. I mean, we've seen it a lot where it's like, oh, I don't want to fight with them because who knows what they could do for me or what I might need for them, and I want to make sure that nobody thinks we're fighting and this and that. And that it's bullshit. It really is. If you see someone hoaxing and it's proven beyond a doubt that they're hoaxed it, Rick Dyer. I mean, Rick Dyer, just biggest hoax. Yeah,
right there, dude. Right.
I mean, you don't get any hoaxier than that.
Right.
They should be shunned. They should be kicked out. They should be stopped.
It's the same thing with ghost hunting, right? And this is why, and again, you and I have seen this, is the ghost hunting groups, they don't want to call each other out because, again, they're friends, this and that. But the bigger part is they don't want people saying, well, what are you doing? Like, well, hold on. It's like, you think my EVP is bullshit, but is your EVP any less bullshit than when you were saying is great stuff on your website? So they don't, it's the glass houses thing, right? Whereas we don't have to deal with that. We don't have that impediment because we're not trying to peddle stuff that's that dubious.
Right. I'm not trying to one up you. I'm not trying to one up anyone else. I'm just, my philosophy has always been investigate the mystery. I'm not out to debunk. Exactly. That's usually what the result of it, but I'm always looking, what is the mystery here? What's causing it? Let's figure this out. And it doesn't matter if you're a friend or a family member or an acquaintance. We've known each other for years. If you're doing something wrong and I find out why, like why you're doing it wrong, maybe not intentionally, but maybe you're just doing something by mistake, I'm still going to call that out. I'm trying to be polite about it unless you're a dick. And then, like Zach Baggins, like I have no problem calling out his stuff. But I try to be as nice as possible about it. If you're making a mistake, I call it a mistake. If I don't think you're doing it intentionally, that's how I'm going to approach it.
Exactly.
Because there's no reason to personally attack someone if they are simply making a mistake. And given this community or these communities, because you have like Bigfoot, cryptid community, you have ghost hunting community, you have UFO, alien community and stuff, they all get together and they like having like-minded people, which we all do. But still, if you see somebody make a mistake, speak up. Right. You're not going to progress if everyone just stays in this little if everyone just goes around the track and no one tries to pass anyone or try to do better, anything like that. You got to speak up.
Well, the analogy that it's come across my head a lot of times is of a Bigfoot truck, the big giant Bigfoot truck, and the Bigfoot truck is stuck in the mud, as happens at truck shows, I assume. And the Bigfoot truck is full of cryptozoologists who are allegedly trying to find Bigfoot. And I picture them stuck in the mud and they're spinning their wheels. And I walk up to them and I'm like, the reason you're not making any progress, the reason you're spinning your wheels and just, getting frustrated and not doing anything, you're not going anywhere. And the reason is because, one of your wheels is stuck in the mud, or if you do this, and they're like, go away. They're like yelling at me. I'm like, I'm trying to get you unstuck, dude. And they're like, we don't need your help. We're moving forward. I'm like, I'm not part because I'm at some distance, metaphorical and physical in this analogy. I can see that you're not moving forward. That's the problem. If you want to move forward, I can help you I can show you how to move forward. If you don't care, if you're happy with all the noise and the spectacle and that's all fine. But if you want to move forward, if you want to progress, you want to make progress solving the mystery, talk to me or Kenny or Joe
or somebody, just reach
somebody
out.
Yeah, it's not just talk to somebody who's not, it's not just an echo chamber,
right? That's
the problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I like going to like paranormal events. I like to engage and see what they're up to, and maybe engage in conversation with them and trade ideas, figure out what they're doing, why they believe what they believe, and then work from there. I think it's a good method. But all right, we're doing good. So we did the Sonoma video. We talked about that. The one thing that I really liked, and I remember reading about this before, but you reminded me of it, that the textures in plaster casts that are often mistaken for dermal ridges. This was a process the drying process of the ground. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was the drying process of the casting materials.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and this is, I mean, it's one of the sort of more interesting sort of nuances in the Bigfoot research. And again, I'm going to give a shout out to the late Michael Dennett, who wrote about this in SI and elsewhere, and also Matt Crowley to some degree. So what happened was that. So when you're talking Bigfoot tracks, there are many Bigfoot tracks. Some of the ones that were allegedly found at the Patterson-Gimlin film, at the side of the footage, they don't look particularly. They look like a very flat. They don't look like a real track. I mean, they look vague. It's more. It looks more like a human than a badger.
It looks like a board was pushed down.
Right.
I have a copy of that cast out in the display cabinet. Yeah.
So what you find is that so you have all these different tracks, and you have tracks of tracks, and of course with eBay you can go online, you can buy tracks of them. I mean, there's Bossbird tracks, there's Cripplefoot tracks, there's a bunch of them, and so you can, as long as you can get your hands on an alleged so-called true version of the tracks, you can make your own without too much difficulty. So what happened was, at some point, someone said there was a track called the Cripplefoot track, and I won't go into too much detail. Basically, it was a track that looked vaguely human or allegedly Bigfoot-like, but it looked like it had been injured. So it was slightly off. So this was taken. So if you find this, there's a couple explanations. One is, this is, a hoaxer who did a bad job of making a Bigfoot track. But the conclusion that many Bigfoot believers came in, like, no, this must be real. Because, that if there was injured Bigfoot, it hurt his ankle, whatever else, there was a mid-tarsal break, what have you, that this is what it was look like. And so the fact that it was a non-standard track, it didn't look
right.
That made it to them to be authentic. Like, no hoaxer would think to do this, right? It must be real. And again, there's logical problems with that, but that carried over into the discussion of Bigfoot fingerprints and to some degree butt prints. So what happened was that, and again, Matt Crowley knows more about this than I do, because he dug right into it. Basically, the idea was that people were finding these what seemed to be fingerprints in these tracks. And people are saying, again, no hoaxer would think to do this. This is it's not that it couldn't technically be done. It's just that nobody, what hoaxer would be so genius enough to make such a detailed fake print that you could actually see the dermal ridges in the tracks. So this again was touted as evidence that this is evidence for their authenticity. Is we're seeing these fingerprints, which would be very difficult to fake and things like that. And that argument stood for quite a few years. In fact, they were endorsed by a guy named Jimmy Chilcutt, who was a police. I don't know if he was a police officer, but he worked with officers in forensics. And so Chilcutt, we're talking, I think, mid-early 80s, was again, you can find him on TV shows and this and that, talking about, look, I'm a police officer, and this is what I'm saying about this. And it wasn't until other people, for example, Anton Wroblewski and others, looked at it and said, hold on here. And again, Matt Crowley did some of this himself. He found that, in fact, what were being mistaken for fingerprints, literally the dermal ridges, were in fact artifacts of the drying process. So if you have, depending on what material you use to cast, because of course there's different types of material casting and so on the ones that were being used, it wasn't that the tracks themselves actually did have these very detailed, fine ridges. And if you think about it, that would be very rare anyway, right? Because the Bigfoot would have to stand in very, very fine silt sand. I mean, if you're walking,
gently, no friction, no movement.
Is it, if there's rocks or twigs or leaves, anyway. So the circumstances under which you would actually get dermal ridges on Bigfoot tracks is pretty rare anyway. But then anyway, so it later turned out, after some experimentation, that in fact these, again, what were believed and claimed to be fingerprints were nothing of the sort. They were just, you could get the same sorts of ridges in drawing anything. You could have cast a bowling ball or a dog, and you would have gotten the same sorts of ridges. So wow. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to sort of do this article, was to sort of give the average person a sort of step back and say, okay, well, you can look at the latest video of, there was the one in Colorado, and someone saw this Bigfoot from a train.
Oh yeah.
You can be distracted by these occasional mysterious sightings once or twice a year, or you can step back and say, hold on here, right? So I picked since 2000. We're almost 25 years, a quarter century into the new millennium. Surely there's got to be better evidence since 2000, right? It's been most of us been adults.
You think so.
And so I wanted to look back and say, okay, well, what evidence is there in the last 24 years? And that's when you get the story.
That was really interesting. Because I want to look that up a little bit. I want to get into that deeper, and I want to do that. I was actually Daniel Reed has done.
I know Daniel. He's a good guy.
He is a good guy. He do you know that he got the governor of West Virginia to proclaim February 15th, I believe, as Critical Thinking Awareness Day? I know you know, because I saw your video.
Oh, then yes, I did know that. Yeah.
So
I was trying to play dumb. It doesn't work for me, does it?
Well, I mean, never mind.
Oh,
anyway.
Oh no, you didn't.
Keep drinking.
All right.
I know he did a lecture about doing making Bigfoot cast or making casts. And I kept thinking of him when I read that. I was like, oh, I wonder if we could do that. Like, I'd like to do that here and just, like you said, like cast a bowling ball and film it all and just let the drying process take effect and see if I can get that to happen. Because that would be really interesting to do. Imagine that.
Well, if you want, I think it would be interesting, and especially if you framed it within the context of the whole discussion about it. But again, I would reach out to Matt Crowley. I've given him a couple of shots out. He's an awesome guy, and he could definitely, he's literally done this before. So
okay,
rather than starting from scratch, reach out to Matt.
Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to him and see what I can learn from him,
and ask him to do the condom sorting challenge while he's at it. It's a little unnerving, but it's interesting.
Did you have him do that on your show?
So Matt, for those who don't know, so I first heard of Matt. He wrote an article on autoerotic asphyxia, in a somewhat banned book magazine called Loompanics. Do you know what Loompanics is?
No.
Okay. Well, so in the 70s and 80s, there were sort of banned-ish books, and this is where you could buy. So there were catalogs where you could buy books on like kitchen improvised plastic explosives.
Oh yeah,
the poor man James Bond, and like how to.
There was like a cookbook or something. The
Anarchist cookbook,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So the Loompanics catalog, and then there was another one that I'm forgetting the name of. And anyway, so in addition to selling all these somewhat sketchy books, I may have bought a few, whatever. There were a couple articles, and one of them was on autoerotic asphyxia. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I mean, I just out of curiosity, so I clicked it out. And then years later, this is Matt Crowley. Anyway, so I got to know him, and of course, he toured with the Jim Rose Circus. He's a great guy, fascinating guy. Anyway, so he did so at Dragon Con, I think it was. So I'm there, Sharon Hill's there, a couple other people there, and Matt. So I see Matt with a condom. I'm like, okay, well, this is going to go one of two ways.
Oh, I remember this.
We got a couple beers,
okay.
Whatever. And so he pulls out this. So he does this thing. I won't go anyway. He basically snorts it through his nose, and then he blows it up. And anyway, interesting guy. But so no, he didn't do it on our show, but he did talk about it, because when the condom sorting challenge it went viral for like 10 minutes, like 5 years ago, whatever. Matt contacted me. He was like, I invented that. I'm like, yeah, you did. Like, and he's like, I want to talk about it. Like, all right, come on the show and talk about it. So that's he's a man of many talents.
See, I never know where this show is going. We've talked about Bigfoot junk quickly, and now we're talking about snorting condoms. Like, never know. All right. What else we got? We got that. We're gonna do the texture thing. I'm gonna do that here. I'm gonna figure.
Oh yes, Daniel. I see in the chat, Paladin Press was talking. That's the other book catalog, Paladin Press. Daniel mentioned.
And there was 2012. There was a tragic accident with someone trying to perpetrate a hoax, a Bigfoot hoax. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. So that was the case where
Randy Lee.
Yeah. I mean, so it's one of those cases of where I think we did a show on this on Squaring the Strange, where there are real dangers to this. Were you on, or did I have Eric Christopher Myers on?
I think it was Eric.
Yeah, I think it was. Anyway, so basically the idea was that even though probably, I'm hedging here, but probably Bigfoot doesn't exist, and probably, as far as I know, ghosts don't exist. The belief in them can, of course, cause harm, and that's been one of the threads of my research and for decades now is talking about the ways in which belief can hurt people. Mob justice, viral videos, rumors, and things like that. And one of the cases, the one you just mentioned, there was a guy that was hit. He was hit by a car, actually two cars, and he was in a ghillie suit, as sort of a hunting suit, and it was at night. And at first, people were like, "Why is this dude, running around a freeway late at night in a suit?" And so it was a terrible accident. I mean, the guy was killed and hit by the first car, then run over by the second car. And it later turned out that he told his friends he wanted to fake some Bigfoot sightings. He wanted to have some. He wanted to see the news the next day and hear people talking about the Bigfoot. And I think that's it's a tragic case. Again, I'm not making light of it at all, but I think it's a case in which I think that happens more often than people think. And it's only in cases where there's a real tragedy that we hear about this, right? So
Right.
for every one of these guys, then again, Randy Lee Tenley or whatever else, the reason we heard about this case is because the guy died.
Right.
But I guarantee you that there are dozens or hundreds of other cases where somebody fakes a Bigfoot sighting, they get away with it. Maybe someone reports it, maybe they don't, but it's for fun. It's for laughs. They want to see, can you get somebody talking about it? They want to see if it makes local news. And I saw the same thing, for example, when there was the evil clown panic in 2016, right? People were dressing up as clowns and jumping out at night in Walmart parking lots, scare the shit out of people. And it happens. And anyway, so my point is that I think that as much as people like to sort of dismiss these hoaxes as being, they're very rare and people wouldn't do that, I think they're more common than people recognize. And again, it's only when there's a tragedy like this that they really come to light that people notice it.
Right. Because if that didn't happen, if he didn't get hit by that first car, then this probably would have gone on the way that he wanted.
Exactly.
There would have been sightings. People would have reported them. Somebody would have called in, reports of the sightings, and that would be a legend. And
we might never know. And maybe 20 years ago, he confesses to his wife or his girlfriend or his son, hey, do you remember that case in 2003, that Bigfoot reporting down the road? That was me. And they get a little chuckle out of it.
Pulls out an old like paper ream box and son, I have something to show you. Lifts it up. There's the Bigfoot head right there. Like, oh my God. Yeah. You're right. We don't know. And that's part of the problem. Just sightings. And this is a real big part of the problem, is that most of the evidence for Bigfoot's existence are anecdotes. They're eyewitness experiences. And to be honest, what we just talked about, that's part of the problem, because you have sightings, but it's a guy deliberately trying to create them. You have other people that maybe aren't so honest and make up just out of whole cloth a sighting. You have people that mistake what they see. And then we have others that we just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying everyone's lying. That's definitely not what I'm saying. I'm not saying everyone's lying or making it up. I think people do see something, but...
Well, I'll tell you this, and I've never really told anybody this, but I've done it. Probably 15, 20 years ago. I remember putting on a costume at night, and I was by the side of the road. It wasn't a Bigfoot costume, but it was just a weird costume, and it wasn't around Halloween. It was, and I got a kick out of suddenly being there, dressed in a silvery boxy costume. Like, what the hell's going on here? So I've done it. And when I was researching my Chupacabra book, I came across accounts of people who faked sightings just for the fun of it. They weren't being mean. They weren't profiting from it. They were pranksters. They're just out there to have fun and see if they could stir some shit.
I did it once when we went to a Bigfoot camping weekend out in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh? Yeah. Mm-hmm. We went out and we met up with Lou from California, and the owners of the campground had a ghillie suit. And we were talking to them, and they're like, yeah, if you want to borrow it and just go out and, walk around in the woods. Because it was during a Bigfoot weekend. Like, they had vendors and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, why not? See?
And I put it on, and I two mistakes right away. One was, this thing is hot and heavy. And I'm out, it was in the middle of summer, and I'm roaming around the woods with this hot, heavy, suit covering me. And I'm like, I'm sweating crazy underneath this. And two, I'm like, I already saw half the people here carrying guns. This is a bad idea. This is a really bad idea. But we did a quick thing. Lou took video of me from a distance, just jumping across a creek, and we posted it to a Bigfoot.
In fact, I just remembered. So you got the magazine in front of you, right?
Yes.
So go to the first page of my article. I just remembered I was in the Bigfoot. I just remembered.
Yeah, the cover.
I forgot about that. So That's a photo of me in a Bigfoot suit out in Western New York. I mean, so,
I mean, that's we did it. We did it just to see, like, could we just put a stupid video up? And it was definitely stupid. I mean, looking at it, I was like, this is never going to fool anyone. And it did. It actually did. And half the people were like, no, that's a guy in a suit. The other half were, I don't know, man, that looks different. It's grayish in color. Maybe that's an older Bigfoot. And I'm like,
this is a Bigfoot who spray painted himself.
Yeah. But I mean, we only let it go for like an hour or so. And then
he's playing with his identity. Why not? Go for it, man. You do you, boo.
But we fessed up. Like, look, no, we just did this to see what kind of reaction we would get. It's me. There's nothing to this. But it just that quick. People were right on board with it. And it just shows you how little some people, not all, but some people do their investigation, how little they research, how little they look into it. They just take it at face value and run with it. All right. So we did that. Last thing I want to touch on, we're going to go. Should we go to break first?
That's up to you.
What do you think? Let's go to break, and then we'll come back. We'll touch on your favorite veterinarian, and then we'll get into some questions. So we got a couple questions in the queue. If you guys in the chat room have some questions for Ben or for me, what we've been talking about or different things, anything that spans our career or whatever, be sure to put a capital Q in front of it and then post a question. We're going to go to a break. It's a 4 minute, 11-second break. And then we'll be back and we'll continue this conversation. So you got 4 minutes and 11 seconds from now. Let's do that.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there.
Well, actually,
Wow.
Yo, I posted a picture of this, and Celestia was like, "That's where that went." Hell yeah, I snagged that. Hey, before we move on, we do have a question, and the person is taking off pretty soon, so I want to get to that and get them an answer. So Smith Paranormal, nice, I like that. Oh, they got a clown as their profile.
Oh, there you go.
Nice. I have a question about ghost hunting devices. I know Ben loves them. What's the best way to explain to people what garbage they really are? Well, I mean, you can try the direct approach. Just say they're all shit. But I mean, for me, I would ask first, like, what device are you talking about? Like, which one in particular? Because we have gone through a lot of them. I have played with the majority of them. There's still a bunch out there that I haven't because they're just too expensive, and I'm not paying for them because I'm not paying for crap. But I would ask what device are we talking about, and if I have looked into it, I'll explain what I found. And this is what I tested. This is what came up. This is what I found affects it other than what they claim it does. And also maybe point out, like, if they're claiming it captures, detects, or communicates with a ghost, my question is, how do you know that? Like, that's the simplest question there is. And I guarantee most people will be stumped by that. They'll give you an answer, but it won't be anything based in science. It'll be word salad. So, I mean, that's just my general basic idea. What do you think?
Yeah, I would pretty much just I would agree with that. I mean, usually in the cases where if I'm on a ghost investigation and there are ghost hunters using this stuff, and Ken and I have talked about this. I mean, it's not my job. I don't consider it my job to tell them they're doing something wrong. It's like, if they ask me, I'll be like, what do you think about this? Like, well, there's this, but I mean, it's not, I there's no benefit to me or them for me to go around, you're not doing that right. Well, actually, but there you go. But so the short answer is that usually I'll sort of say, okay, well, so sort of like what Kane says, like, well, how do you know? Like, okay, well, this detects ghosts. I'm like, okay, well, how do you know? Well, because it goes off in certain places. I'm like, well, how do you know what you're detecting is a ghost? And usually by this point in the conversation, they're getting irritated with me,
right?
And so I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm being sincere. Like, how do you know? You might be right. I don't know, but I mean, I can, if you're telling me that this EMF detector is detecting ghosts, why upon what information are you saying the ghosts emit EMFs? And in about half the cases, they will admit, well, it's a theory. It's just a theory. And so that's an interesting response, because it's like, I mean, they're right in a way. That is a theory, but of course, my position is hold on here. Like, you claim to be doing good research. You're here. You're spending your time. You're doing the whole sick. You got your gear. You're doing the whole setup here, and you're using these devices. Wouldn't you want the basis for the devices that's using to be something more than just a theory?
Right.
I mean, just for your own good. I don't care. I'm not using them. But if I were you, if I'm using some device, if I'm spending, $150, $200, whatever it is, and I'm basing my investigation on readings from this device, I would want to know for sure that it detects the things that it's claiming. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
Right. And he follows up saying, I give the example. You can test a smoke alarm, works by introducing smoke, but you can't introduce a ghost to a device.
Exactly.
And I mean, for some of the devices, like he mentioned EMF apps, REM pods, you name it. For the apps and other devices like that, I would say first, like a smoke alarm, great example. It does not have a for entertainment purposes only disclaimer on it.
Right.
Smoke alarm is advertised as, hey, this will detect smoke and let you know by an alarm that there is smoke in the area.
This is the opposite of an entertainment device.
Yes. If you have, what else? A blood pressure cuff does not have a disclaimer saying for entertainment purposes only.
Right.
It's a medical device used by a professional who's trained to use it to understand what the numbers mean when it comes up. But when you have something like the Ovilus device that says right on the front for entertainment purposes only, there's a problem.
Right.
It's not a tool. It's a entertainment device, which it's really not even that entertaining.
It's manufactured by tools. And
Yeah.
so usually what I'll say is I'll be like, well, honestly, a lot of when people ask me about the devices, I'm just like, ask Kenny. Like, I don't. This is perhaps the one field where I will say Kenny knows more than I do. Ask Kenny. Mostly because I don't even want to deal with it. So I'm like,
Right.
Kenny does this. He's smarter than I am in this one particular very narrow field, and so go talk to Kenny.
Yeah, and the reason I said it depends on the device too is it's because it really depends on the device. An EMF meter works differently than a REM pod, which is a junior theremin. They're different beasts, and you tell me
or
what
Frank's box or whatever else. I mean, they do different things. Yeah,
it's all different things, and it requires a different explanation and different information. So, but yeah, that's where I would start, and then just point out the simple things. Like, how do you know that is a simple, effective question that can usually derail a belief-based conversation right at the beginning.
So that reminds me, I may have mentioned this on the show once before, but it reminds me, I'll tell you a quick story about when I was investigating Fort George up in Canada. And I remember I was there doing an investigation for a TV thing that didn't go anywhere. And at one point I was there, it was like, I think we did 2 overnights. It was freezing cold, probably not too different than it is there. Just off in the Golden Horseshoe in Ontario. And we're doing this investigation, and I was brought on as the token skeptic, as I typically am. And this woman came up to me and she says, hey, you have some background, some knowledge, this and that and the other. You're a skeptic, will you listen to my EVP? And I said, sure. I said, well, what is it? She said, well, it's a ghost child. And I said, okay. I said, I will listen to your EVP. I will with an open mind. I will listen to it and give you my best advice, but answer me this. How do you know it's a ghost child? And she's like, what do you mean? I said, well, I know what a human child sounds like. I don't know for sure what a ghost sounds like. And I sure as hell don't know what a ghost child sounds like. So what am I comparing this to? And again, I'm not being mean. I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm being sincere. Like you captured this EVP. You have decided that it's a child ghost, and you may be right. I don't know. There was actually a child called Sarah Ann, which I wrote about in one of my books, and I'm sure she thought it was Sarah Ann. And I said again, I will listen to it. I will listen with my mind. I'll give you but I just like give some thought to why you immediately think that this must be. It's obviously a ghost child. And it was interesting because I could tell that nobody had ever like challenged her on like, well, everyone's like, oh yeah, let me hear your child ghost. I'm like, how do you know? And
yeah.
And it was like, and I mean, to her credit, she sort of looked for a second, like, well, maybe I don't know. I was okay, well, let me listen to it. But it was one of those sort of light bulb moments where she's like, how do I know that? Well, I assume that. Okay, well.
Right. And the assumptions come from like knowing the story. They know that there's a story about a ghost child there. Right. And if you hear something that you relate to a child's voice, then automatically yes.
It's got to be Sarah Ann because there's a pre-existing legend and it fits right in, and there you go.
Yeah. All right. Should we keep going with questions because we got a few? Let's just
I'll do whatever Don tells me.
Okay.
Right.
Donna's in charge then.
All right.
All right. Next question then. This is good. I like this. Kenny, where's your tea?
Hi, Amy. I miss you.
I left it at home because see, I got a case of beer for someone's arrival so we could hang out, have a couple beers, and then, they let a storm get in the way, so he didn't show up. So now I have all this beer to drink, and I'm like, I'll bring a few over and I'll enjoy some Pennsylvania goodness. That's because of Yingling. Not a sponsor, but I don't mind if you want to be. So there you go. The tea will come back next week. All right. Next question, please. Isn't Bigfoot just a hairy guy with big feet? It's funny. I mean, speaking of like footprints and Bigfoot and stuff like that, I've noticed a lot more when I take footprints because it snowed. It snowed here. And we have these little gaps in between where it kind of gets a little warmer and it melts it a little bit. And then, we get more snow. And I found my footprints just get bigger. And I really should. Like, I might actually do that. I might, if I remember, I'll take a picture. I'll make a couple footprints, take a picture, and then come back out and, get some reference points so you can know I'm taking the same picture. And then see what it looks like in a couple days when it starts to melt and see how big it gets and how wide. But that's something I've noticed when they see Bigfoot tracks in snow and ice.
Right.
It's like, how long has it been there since it was made, and then the time that you got there to see it, and what was the temperature, how much?
And of course, the answer is that they never really have a reference point, because if they saw the creature that was making it, then there would be a sighting then, right? So it wouldn't be, hey, at some point, days, hours, weeks earlier, something made this. It would be like, oh my God, there's that thing, and here's the tracks. Right. And because you can't establish a baseline, who knows where you go from there.
And it's going off of that. Like I was in a conversation with a guy. He started asking a lot of questions. He found some of my videos and stuff, and so he started asking questions. And he told me that he was really big into Bigfoot, and that he had been out in the woods and he heard Bigfoot knocks one night. And my first question was like, how do you know that Bigfoot was making the knocks? Like, did you find them? But he's like, no. By the time we got to the area, we couldn't find anyone. There was nobody there. There was no human there. And when we went back to our original camp, we heard it again. I'm like, still, if you don't see the source.
If you don't know, then you don't know.
You don't know the source. You don't know what it is. And again, there's that assumption. One, that it's a Bigfoot that's doing it. And two, that no human was in the area. Because, I mean, I've done it on Bigfoot hunts where I've knocked on I have like an axe handle, I have my official Bigfoot knocker.
I do. Those are big knockers.
I got two of them. But I've knocked on the trees and I've heard other knocks in the distance. And I'm thinking, well, I mean, out here during a Bigfoot conference, there's gotta be some other guy out there.
It's the same thing with call blasting. Right, where you have people who they have what they believe or are sure are Bigfoot sounds. So in fact, there's
several thousand versions,
several thousand different versions. And so they'll actually go out into the woods with speakers and blast out these sounds, right? And you can just imagine someone like, I'm hearing Bigfoot. No, you're hearing some dude a couple miles away who's trying to call for Bigfoot. It just,
yeah, it's just that big, huge leap of faith that a quote unquote believer, because I'm totally stereotyping here, but believer will take and not second guess it, and that's where people like us come in and we question it, we challenge it, like, how do you know this? And it goes back to that simple question that cannot be answered. Or if it is answered, it's a word salad bullshit answer that leads to another.
Right.
How do you know that?
It's not a clarification. It's they're oftentimes they're just swapping one label for another.
Right.
But it's weird because they don't think about it that way. It's like, and it's not that they're stupid. They're just not. They're not thinking about it with the through the critical prism that we are. And so you'll pin them down on something, and they'll just change the wording. Like, well, there you go. Like, no, you didn't explain anything. You just called it something else. That doesn't.
Yeah. You didn't step forward. You took a step to the side.
Right. Exactly.
Gave me just a different explanation of the same thing. All right. Next question, please. John Kennedy. What's up, John? Do either of you think that Bigfoot culture could be considered a religion? Well, I mean, I don't. I mean, a formal religion to me has some kind of doctrine that rules and hierarchy and all that. So I don't know. But if you're talking like just a poor man's
like a cult,
the voice of Donna has spoken.
It is like a cult. Divine Donna from on high calls it a cult.
All night, 2-hour show. And Donna finally chimes in. It's a cult.
I would say, for reasons that Kenny mentioned, I wouldn't really call it a religion. Partly because typically religions have a figurehead, and used a human figurehead because you need revelation, and you've got Joseph Smith, you got Jesus, you got Muhammad, you got take your pick, and so it might be a quasi religion, but I would say it's a case of where there are lots of things that people are very passionate about. Like, for example, the analogy I would be to ghost hunting. I don't think ghost hunting is a religion per se. Again, there's people who are true believers and this and that, but I mean, there's no specific doctrine. And for example, with Bigfoot, that's especially true, right? Because with Bigfoot, so some people believe, and we don't need to get into it. Basically, some people believe that Bigfoot is it's this sort of this metaphysical entity that embodies interdimensional stuff, right? Yeah. And I was cornered by a guy who that's another story. But other people are like, no, it's this this scary thing, and so the short answer is I wouldn't really. I think it has some religious aspects to it, particularly when Bigfoot is viewed as a sacred entity, which occasionally happens. People talk about, again, Bigfoot as not a big scary monster, which you might expect would be in some incarnations, but as a free spirit and away from humanity and untouched by the evils and this and that and the other.
So I mean, I just looked up define cult, and my Google AI tells me a cult is a group of people or system that has excessive devotion to a belief system, object, or figure. So
well, you see, I don't know that excessive belief. I mean, I would consider the belief in excess of the evidence, but that's true for lots of things.
Yeah, I don't know what excessive belief or excessive devotion. Well, I mean, that I could see, like, if that's your life, like that's your identity. Because sure. Like I know like ghost hunters and UFO people that this is their identity. This is how they introduce themselves to the world.
Sure.
Hey, I'm so-and-so Bigfoot hunter. That's what I do. Like whether you do it on your weekends, if you do it full time, if you have some kind of funding, which would be amazing. Like that I could see as being almost cultish.
Or like you also see that with abductees, right? Travis Walton. Yes. He's been flogging his story for what 30, 40 years now.
Right.
And that's I've met Travis and he seems like a tall guy. But I
met him at a UFO conference in Pennsylvania, and it was interesting. The first time I met him, I didn't know the story at the time, and I think I was just like, "What?" Are you serious? That's a story you tell people?
And you believe that? That makes sense to you. Okay. All right.
They invited you here?
Okay. All
okay.
Right.
All right.
Well, but again, to bring it back to Bigfoot, I mean, there's, people have made entire careers, Biscardi and Moneymaker and Meldrum, and they're repeaters. Something the chat mentioned that earlier. It's one of those cases of where you have most people who never seen Bigfoot at all. You have a small percentage of people who think they saw something that they interpret as Bigfoot. A smaller percentage of people who saw something definitive that they're sure is Bigfoot. And then you have an even smaller percentage of people who see Bigfoot on the regular, who are like, yeah, Bigfoot. I live in the mountains of Kentucky, and I have my own place. And Bigfoot come down the mountain every couple months, and we have cherry pie together.
Or that the guy in Pennsylvania that has like Bigfoot sex.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Suddenly Divine Donna's coming like, oh my God, hold on.
The show has taken a turn.
Yeah, that guy used to be, his early videos were funny. And then he got really gross. Really, really gross. But I tried to have him on the show, like my earlier show. Actually, not this one, the Geeks and Ghosts that I used to do. I tried to get him on there, but he absolutely refused to talk to me.
I wonder why.
Because I was a stalker. I was like, I know you only live 2 hours from me. I can come up to your house. I know where you live. Anyway, all right. So yeah, next. I wouldn't say it was a religion, but actually, the point I wanted to make here is that, like, where does that leave us? Because like we've made a career out of looking at this stuff, investigating this stuff, and like for me, this is. I always work. Like I'm always on. So am I part of a cult? Am I a cult leader?
Cult.
Oh, good one.
Do I lead the cult?
This suddenly got very deep.
The cult of Kenny.
Well, do you introduce yourself as Kenny Biddle, the skeptic?
Only at paranormal. No, normally no. It's just
how
Kenny.
do you introduce yourself?
I don't do the whole like.
Also, Ben Radford just to get the adulation. I'm used to it.
No, if I'm at a like a paranormal event or something, I usually introduce myself as like, oh yeah, I'm the token skeptic. That's how I usually introduce, and then I explain it a little bit more because they'll ask. But yeah, maybe I'm partial cult leader, like a co-leader.
A co-leader?
A co-leader. A cult
Wow.
Co-leader.
What's that make Donna?
Donna's the queen bee. She's Divine Donna. She's already got a cult. People love her.
Oh, yeah, I have a cult following. Yeah.
Never on camera, but people love her. All right, moving on. We're doing good. Jade Kitten. What's up, girl? I just got back, but wasn't the Patterson film an admitted hoax? As best of my knowledge, no.
Well, it's complicated.
Oh boy.
As many things are. So it depends on who you're talking about. So certainly Roger Patterson went to his grave cashing checks and never admitting that it was a hoax. Bob Gimlin, as we talked about earlier, is still alive as of this evening, I think. And he insists, he hasn't changed his story. He claims that he was there and they shot the film and he says it wasn't a hoax. If you look at Greg Long's book, The Making of Bigfoot, there are lots of and again, there's a whole show, there's a deep dives there, but there's lots of red flags, lots of very suspicious things about the film in terms of when it was developed, how it got from Bluff Creek, California, by plane. Was it just the places that could develop that film at that time? There's lots of really sketchy stuff and circumstances about this. So there's ample reason, even aside from the fact that the figure in the Patterson-Gimlin film is of human size. It can move. I mean, it moves like a person can move. So if you hear someone saying human can't move like that, yes, they can. Absolutely, they can. A friend of mine, Dave Dagling, did it. So it's called compliant gait. So is that a natural way for humans to move? No. Can humans move that way? Absolutely. It's human sized. It's not 12 feet tall. And also, and I was touching on this earlier, every now and then you hear someone saying, well, why hasn't the Patterson-Gimlin film been duplicated, replicated? In fact, I wrote a piece on that very recently. And you hear people saying, well, okay, Mr. Skeptic, why hasn't Mr. Skeptic, why haven't you duplicated the Patterson-Gimlin film? And the fact, and I wrote an extensive article on it, and plus in Skeptical Inquirer magazine. But in a nutshell, the fact is that nobody has actually tried to replicate it with period costume, period footage, and equipment at the same time. So it's true that no one has replicated the film. No one's tried to do it. No one's put in the time and the effort and the money. Why would they? Because it's not going to prove it one way or the other. So to get back to your question. So there is a guy named Bob Hieronymus, who's mentioned in the Greg Long book that I mentioned before, who claims that he was part of the hoax. In fact, he claims to have been in the suit. Now, at this point, again, this was 1967. So, there's not much. And the fact is that even if someone found the suit, and people say, well, where's the suit? Even if somebody found the suit, that wouldn't prove anything. Here's a rotting piece of plastic and hair, so it's not going to prove anything. So nobody, neither Gimlin nor Patterson, have confessed that it was a hoax. It's even possible that Patterson hoaxed Gimlin. It's possible that Patterson hoaxed it, and Bob Gimlin truly believes that it was a Bigfoot. I don't know, and we're probably never going to know. Right. But the short answer is it has never been conclusively proven to be a hoax, and I don't know how you would at this point anyway. But all the evidence, forensic evidence, everything points to it very likely being a hoax. And the claims, for example, that the makeup wasn't good enough at the time. Yes, it was. Planet of the Apes came out a year later, and so it's just simply not true that someone couldn't have made this film in 1967, and someone could duplicate the film today if they had the time and energy and the money. And more power to you.
Yeah. I have nothing to add. Good. All right.
That's why I'm here.
Awesome. JD, what's up, buddy?
JD Sword, the man, the sword. I got nothing.
Where are you going with that? All right. I'm working on an article about cryptids, but I'm having trouble defining what a cryptid is compared to mythological or folkloric creatures. Are there any books you'd recommend? I've ordered yours and Joe Nichols.
That's a good question. All right. So
cryptids.
Okay.
Like a abominable.
Well, so JD's question is very specific.
Mythological or folkloric. Yeah. Okay.
So no, it's an interesting question. And the answer is that it's a porous category. So, for example, in folklore, a lot of elves and trolls and dragons, things like that. So, are they folkloric? Absolutely. Are they cryptozoology? It depends on the framing. It depends on the context. So, for example, there are people who to this day believe that elves are real. It's not a joke. It's like, yeah, elves are real. And fairies and I did a piece on Iceland, which some of you may know. My investigation to a road in Iceland that was actually moved that stopped some construction for a while. Same thing with dragons, right? So the belief is that it's possible. It's not clear, but it's possible that, for example, the belief in dragons was inspired by the finding of dinosaur bones, because they were like, well, before they knew what dinosaurs were, like, we've heard of dragons. These are big. They're not human. They're not horses. So people saying, well, maybe these were those. So the reason you're having trouble defining what a cryptid is compared to folklore creatures is that there's no hard and fast rule. It depends on the context in which they're being discussed. So, I mean, I've got probably 2 or 3 dozen books on folklore, behind me in the shelf somewhere. And I can point to you I can point to examples of ones that are clearly folkloric. But I mean, they're not sort of ones. So again, it depends on how you define cryptids, right? So if you're talking about something that is explicitly believed to be real, well, again, that doesn't help because people believe that jinn are real. I've talked to people who are absolutely they're like, yeah, jinn exist. I've dealt with them. I've talked to people who believe that fairies and trolls are real. So that's not going to help us distinguish between the two.
Okay, I like this, Celestia. So I'm hearing that cryptids or critters folks are still believing in, looking for, but mythological and folkloric critters are the ones everyone has given up on finding.
That's not a bad distinction. I like
there you go, JD. There's a good definition. I like that. All right. Oh, mythological creature is a retired cryptid. That's good. Yeah. When nobody looks for them anymore, they're like, oh, we're going to the old cryptid home. we got to retire. We're done. That's nice. All right. Moving on. We're doing good. Damn it, Bob. Ben, other than Kenny's fantastic book, what are you currently reading, or what was the most recent book you read?
I'd like to recommend Kenny's book.
I love that.
Bob said other than Kenny's book.
Other than.
Oh, okay.
Other than.
So for those who don't know, because I'll just tell you. So I like busting Kenny's balls for various reasons, one of which is that he's been working on a book for
ever
20 years.
20 years. And Kenny's not a bad writer. I was going to say, okay, Kenny is not a bad writer after I've edited his work. Let's just clear that up.
So take credit.
So the fact is that Kenny can write well after I've polished it, and there's really no reason why he shouldn't put together a book. So I keep encouraging to do that, and I think Donna does as well. Oh, Kenny's busy. Look at the shit he does. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. All right. Thanks, Celestia. Well, I'm too busy doing a podcast with you.
Celestia, you are welcome on this show anytime. You have a spot here all the time.
I forgot where I was, but the point is, oh, yes. Oh, what was Kenny's book? Other than Kenny's book, what was the question? Put the question back up.
What other books? What book? What are you reading?
What are you reading now?
What am I reading right now? Actually, so I'm reading Claptrap, which is a book of idiotic parodies of iconic films. Lots of caricatures because I love this stuff. I'm reading Geddy Lee's book, My Effin' Life, the former bassist and singer for the great Canadian band Rush. I'm reading a book on those are the ones that are currently on the stack. I'm also reading a book on truth default theory, which is a topic that will be a subject of an upcoming podcast and for Skeptical Inquirer. What's the name of my podcast?
Squaring the
Strange. There we go. It'll be the subject of a upcoming episode on that. So those are the main. I try not to read more than 3 books at a time. Partly just because I don't have time. Partly because I try to circle back to them. But I wish I had time to read more fiction. I like fiction. I'm just so busy with other stuff. So
yeah, I'm slowly getting through Ken Fraser's last book, Shadows of Science. I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, because I got a copy back here. It's at home, so I'm slowly getting through that, and then the rest of the stuff. Like I have trouble like just picking out a book to read more for me,
right.
Because I'm constantly like stuff that I'm working on. It's like, oh, they have a book. Oh, I got to get it. I got to get that. I got to page through it. I got to read through it to see if there's details. like I don't want to admit it, but I've read too many books by the Warrens. Let me rephrase that. Too many books that were written by authors hired by the Warrens because they never wrote their own shit. But I've read that, and I was just telling, I did an interview before we did the show, and we were talking about it a little bit, and I just read the 550 plus pages of Brittle's lawsuit against the Warrens and Warner Brothers and stuff. Yeah. Because I got a copy of that, and I wanted to see what he had gathered, so I read through all of it. And that's the kind of stuff that I've been reading, because it's like, all right, and that's 550 plus full 8.5 by 11 pages. But yeah, most of the stuff that I read anymore has to do with the projects that I'm working on.
Right.
There's very few times when I get the chance to read, and I'm the same way. Like for science fiction / fantasy, I love Dragonlance, the novels of the Dragonlance series by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. I mean, that's my all-time favorite series, and I've read the first 6 books of that, which is like 2 series that continue on for each other. But I've read those like a dozen times because I enjoy it. It's something that like frees my brain up from actually thinking. I can relax, but I haven't had time to do that. So
yeah, I mean, the other thing that I read, I mean, just in terms of actual reading is I usually read the New York Times every morning, and also the New Yorker. They have great cartoons, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And usually about once every issue, I'll find something. I do have a stack of them. So, but I also read Skeptic magazine from Michael Shermer. I also get the Australian Skeptics magazine and stuff. So I mean, there's lots of informative stuff I read. But in terms of like pleasure reading, when I have time left over, there you
pleasure
go.
reading. Yeah, that's a very rare commodity. That's a very rare occurrence. But all right, cool. What do we got next there? Daniel Reed, we know him. Ben, what do you think about the Yeti footprint Josh Gates cast?
All right, so so I'll try and sort of sum it.
You can see the smoke coming out of his ears. Like, I'm thinking, how do I word this?
Well, I've been on Josh's show. We're not friends, but I've been on the show a couple times. I know him. He's a good guy. He was kind enough to have me on for his Chupacabra episode, and digging in the grave looking for gargoyles, which we talked about on the Squaring the Strange show. Anyway, so the for those who don't know, so basically, I don't remember. I don't have the details in front of you, but I'm going to say maybe 8 years ago, 6, 8, 10 years ago, Josh Gates for one of his shows, either Expedition Known or Destination Truth, one of those. He went and found a Yeti footprint. I think it was in the shadows of the Himalayas. And it was very odd because, and again, it's been years since I wrote about it. As I recall, he was basically he flew in for the TV shoot. And I think he was only there for like a couple days, like 2 or 3 days, and all of a sudden he finds this track. And he made a big deal about it, or his show made a big deal about it. I mean, whatever. And it looked kind of like a humanish track. I mean, it looked vaguely plausible, but there were a couple of things that were odd about it. Number one was that there only seemed to be one of them, as far as I could tell. And I'm wondering, is this a one-footed Yeti?
Ben, that is because it is a one-legged Yeti that
there you go.
Transported down from the mothership, landed,
put his foot down, and then leaped,
and then was sucked back up.
That's my understanding.
Duh.
So
right here in front of you.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, and again, we talked about dermal ridges and tracks a little bit earlier in the last hour. To be fair, of course, the substrates that people are walking on, not all substrates will take tracks equally well. So it is plausible that there were rough rocks and then trees, whatever else. But it just seemed odd to me that there only seemed to be one really compelling, with an asterisk, track. And also, again, he found it very quickly. I mean, there are people who've spent months and years looking for this, and they seem to find one pretty much right away. I found that odd. Anyway, so it made the news, which is why I think I wrote about it for Discovery or something. And then again, it sort of made the news, and then it was like, Yeti found by Josh Gates, and blah blah blah. And then it just vanished. And it was one of those things where you have to wonder, like, if there's really, I mean, this was touted as being, hey, Gates found this is a big thing, or else. And so I circled back. It was one of those things where every now and then there'll be a news story, and I'll put a pin in it. I'll be like, I'll make a note somewhere, like, circle back to this at some point. And so I later did see the track. Do you guys know, Kenny, do you know where the track is?
I do not.
Disneyland. So you might be thinking, well, hold on here. Hold on, Ben. Hold on. This is a high quality, this could be evidence of the fabled, long sought, elusive Yeti. So it must be like at the Smithsonian. Maybe it's being like examined by GPL, or surely there's like top scientists. No, it's at Disneyland. Have you been? I think it's the Yeti ride at the Matterhorn. I think it is
Matterhorn.
Yeah. So because the lines are like 4 or 5 miles long, they're trying to make you kill. They're trying to distract you from the fact you've been waiting in line for 45 minutes,
right,
to do a 2-minute ride. So they have all these sorts of display stuff, which I kind of enjoyed. I mean, I'm digging this because this is my groove.
Yeah.
So you're waiting in line, and sure enough, I come across the track, and there's a photo of Josh with the track. So I have some photos of it somewhere. But it was revealing to me, would be the word I would use, that it didn't end up being, it was apparently of no evidential value whatsoever, and it's a prop at an amusement park.
That's that's interesting. That's where.
Well, again, is it a Yeti track? I don't know. I'm guessing no. But if it is a Yeti track, it has been remarkably unfruitful. I'll just leave it at that.
It's an alleged Yeti track. It is a track. It is a cast of a track, but we don't know what caused it.
There you go.
We'll leave it at that. All right. Moving on. Doing great. Squatch talk. Hey, buddy. Why is it only Bigfooters have Bigfoot experiences in areas that thousands of people have been that year? We're just not looking for the right thing. I mean, that's the only thing I can come up with.
Yeah, I mean, clearly.
I mean, you're out in the woods. You don't, if you're not looking for them.
Yeah, why would you?
Why would we see?
Why would you see a giant, huge man-like figure if you're not looking for it? I don't understand.
I don't know. I don't know how to answer this. I mean, it's a good point. Thousands of people hike through areas and go through areas, parks, and all this, and it's only ones that are usually Bigfooters that have this experience, and
people looking for Bigfoot, and yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like somebody brought it up earlier. I don't know who did it, but like all footage is blurry. All Bigfoot footage is blurry when you take video and stuff. And it's something, I think you brought it up in your article about, like, we're not talking 1967. We're talking 2024 now. And most of the modern world has a high definition camera in their pockets, like right there all the time with them. Why don't we have high definition video of these Bigfoot creatures? All we get is blurry shit. We get really bad CGI. We get really far distance, zoomed in, pixelated, low quality.
All the things that lend themselves to either misidentifications or hoaxing.
Right. Yeah, it makes it easier. It makes interpreting it as an anomaly easier. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you, Squatch Talk. I think maybe there's a bias going on. I don't know. Maybe. I think so. All right, let's move on. What do we got? We got a couple more questions. Celestia, do either of you know if anyone has ever claimed copyright over Bigfoot? Interesting.
No, and the reason is that I mean you can copyright
works of art.
Yeah, so
photos,
you can copyright specific depictions of it. So, for example, if somebody does if
like
someone does
a certain drawing,
a sculpture or whatever else, you can copyright that. I suspect that someone has probably tried to because like, why wouldn't they? But I think that as a practical matter, I mean, you can't do that any more than you can copyright elves or trolls or dragons.
Right.
You can copyright specific types of dragons in that artistic depiction, but for the monster truck, yeah. So right, so yeah, so for example, I mean, you can, monster trucks or Bigfoot pizza or Bigfoot jerky. So if it's a branding issue, then that's one thing, but in terms of the monster itself,
good luck with that.
Well, and frankly, I'm like, if Bigfoot's pissed off, have him show up. Let's do this. Bring your lawyers, Mr. Bigfoot, and sue me.
Yeah. That's a good one. All right. We got a couple more left. Hey, Aaron. What's up, buddy? Hey, Aaron. What's your opinion of Ron Moorhead's audio recordings and story? Hoping I got the name right. I don't know who that is. Do you know who that is?
I've heard the name. I can't say that I'm familiar with the story.
Moorhead.
I mean, there's lots of people who've claimed all sorts of stuff. Was he the guy that did the Sierra Sounds? Was that Ron Moorhead?
Ronald Moorhead, author, adventurist.
Adventurist, really?
That's what it says. Adventurist.
Does he call himself? Hold on. Does he call himself a thought leader?
Oh my God! His book, one of his books, says the Quantum Bigfoot. You got to look at this cover. This is awesome.
I don't think I do actually.
I'm going to share this. I'm going to share it because you got to see this.
Oh wow!
That is awesome. I love that. That is so cool.
That's
interesting.
All right. So how does quantum physics relate to spirituality and Bigfoot?
Author, producer, has been known for his decades for his
Sierra Sounds. That's the guy. Okay, so So when I was talking, I'd forgotten so he put out again, as I mentioned, he put out I have the CD in the other room of what he claimed were Bigfoot sounds. And when I was talking earlier about call blasting, these are the sorts of stuff that he would put out there. So he would like brr, brr, those sorts of things. And so someone actually asked a linguist, like, is this a human sound? And the person said, no, it's not human. They're like, well, see, it's not human. And someone said, okay, well, if they cup their heads over their hands with their mouths, could they make the sound? Like, oh yeah, totally. So like it's it's easily faked by humans. So right. And so with Moorhead, and there's another guy, I think his name is Johnson, Scott Johnson or Andrew Johnson. He's a PhD psychologist. And of course, in the Bigfoot field, if you have a degree, and I wrote a piece of Bigfoot degrees about a year ago, and some inflated degrees. I'll spare everybody. Look it up if you want to. Bigfoot credentials, I think it is. So in the Bigfoot field, because it is mostly amateurs, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just it's weekend warriors. It's weekend warriors, right? And so because of that, the number of credentialed academics in Bigfoot research is minimally small. I can think of a half dozen, if that. And many of them, for example, Melba Ketchum, who's a veterinarian. Again, no disrespect to veterinarians, but that does make you a Bigfoot expert. So anyway, so going back to Johnson. So Johnson, who's made a big deal about it. He's got a PhD. He's a Bigfoot believer. All well and good. But he's posted these really rambling, weird Bigfoot like posts and stuff and this and that. Anyway, so he's decided, and I mentioned him in my article, I think briefly. This guy, and he's like, so he believes, again, this PhD psychologist talks about how Bigfoot he knows they're real, they're telepathic, and they're this whole ET connection, all this sort of. See, I can see Kenny trying to communicate with the telepathic Bigfoot. So, in a nutshell, yeah, I don't put any stock in. I mean, look, at the point in which you're claiming that Bigfoot are not corporeal animals, that they're not subject to laws of physics, or they don't eat, they don't poop, they don't, they're if
everybody poops.
If that's your claim, if your answer to why we don't have better evidence of Bigfoot is that they're quantum, and they every time they're about to be shot or die or captured, they go into another dimension. Okay, well then they're magic creatures. I got nothing.
I pulled up his bio here. I'm going to share it. I have a problem with this. Because right here it says the Sierra Sounds are the only Bigfoot recordings that have been scientifically studied, time tested, and accredited as genuine. How do you do that when you have no known samples?
Kenny, it's online, dude. It says it right there. It says it right there. It's written on that screen. I don't know what more you need, dude. It's right there.
I need a lot
and
more.
Look at that photo. It looks like David Carradine after Bender.
It does actually look pretty cool. I mean, that's a good photo. I do like that. I do like it. But yeah, I don't all right.
Well, and let me just say, author/adventurist. Again, I was waiting for Thought Leader to be attached to that. I'm an author. I'm a bit of I've done some adventure stuff. I would not have the balls to call myself an adventurist, but more power to you, Ron.
I like Celestia's comment. They misspelled discredited. That's exactly right. All right. What else we got there? Archon. Am I saying that right? I hope I'm saying that right. Cool. I liked Archon.
I don't know. I'm guessing.
Archon is pretty good. I like that. How often do you have people trying to use EMF as evidence of paranormal activity? All the time. All the time. I mean,
90% of the time.
That's like your basic ghost hunting equipment, like your basic kit. Somebody has an EMF meter, and 9.8 times out of 10, they don't know how to use it, or don't know its proper use. and that's one of the biggest things. Like the simple question is that a single or tri-axis meter? And like the blank stare that comes up, like, what do you mean? And if you have no idea what that means, and you
probably shouldn't be using it.
You should not be using it. Just put it down, step away, and that's it. Forget about it.
Donate to Goodwill and just be done with it. You're just embarrassing yourself at this point.
Yeah. Because anything you do afterwards, you're going to be doing it wrong. And I can guarantee that. And it's just, it's sad. But yeah, like that's usually the most common piece of equipment or common piece of shit, common gadget that ghost hunters will use to try to prove that, yeah, there's something here. And it's just when you watch how they use it and you understand how it's supposed to be used, you realize, all right, they're doing it wrong. And that's it, plain and simple. So
and they don't appreciate being informed. I mean, that's
Right.
what I've always found just baffling. It's like you would think, oh my God, thank you. Someone who knows about this, explain to me how this works. You think they'd be grateful instead of it's like, well, there's going to be an asshole again.
Usually it's very negative feedback, and yeah, they don't like being. And I don't want to, like, we're talking in generalities here.
Sure.
It's not everyone. It's a vast majority, though. Yeah, do react that way. They don't like being told that they're doing it wrong, and they don't like to know about it because they saw it on TV, and that's the way they know how to do it. That's the way they've always done it. Therefore, that's the way it's done, which unfortunately is incorrect. So, good question though. All right, next up, Michael Kent Cornett. Has anyone tried to use EMF as proof of Bigfoot?
Probably.
Probably.
I don't. Like I've gone out when I've gone out with Bigfoot hunters or Bigfooters. It's usually like I use this term loosely, the purists, which are just people that are into Bigfoot. Like they don't cross over into ghost hunting or UFOs and stuff. They're into Bigfoot as a creature, as a natural in the woods, always been here creature, not an interdimensional, metaphysical, teleporting, rainbow bridge kind of like entity. But for those people that do claim that like Bigfoot is interdimensional and he teleports, that's why there's only one footprint. Sometimes I could definitely see them using an EMF meter to look for residual energy. Everyone drink because energy's wrong. But yeah, I haven't personally heard of anyone doing that. But
I haven't either, but I'm sure somebody has because again, it's a kitchen sink thing, right? Where you have these constellations of beliefs where if you believe in one thing, you're more likely to believe in something else. So if you believe in psychics and you believe then you're more likely to believe in near-death experience and ghosts and things. So there's these clusters of beliefs. And so it's not uncommon, for example, that you'll go to, and Kenny's seen this all the time, you'll go to what seems to be a UFO conference. You're thinking UFOs. Well, no, there's crystals, there's Bigfoot, there's conspiracies, and same thing. Last time I went to the Roswell UFO Festival years ago, they had some UFO stuff, but of course it was all this new age and of course they don't care. They're there to sell merchandise. They don't give a shit. They're like, well, I can't sell this. This isn't UFO. Hey man, there's a price tag on it. Throw it out the door. So
paranormal conferences are always like a mix. Because usually I go to ones that are more on the side of ghost hunting, and you have your ghost hunting groups. They're selling equipment, they're showing off their equipment, but then you have psychics, mediums, crystal healings, Reiki, all these metaphysical kind of things are mixed in. Bigfoot, the last Bigfoot conference I went to, there was a ghost hunting group there, and that was kind of it for that. I've been to UFO conferences where they've had everything. And then the last psychic fair that we went to was just mind-boggling. I mean, the stupid was strong with that conference. And I don't say that a lot. I don't like using the word stupid, but
sometimes that's the word. So
it was just there by the truckload, from medical cures and I mean I forget what it's called, the iridology, where they look into your iris and they can tell what diseases or something you have. From that to using
there's some air candling where they jam the candles in your ear, and
that I didn't see that.
It's not as big these days, but it was a big thing not too long ago. That's going to make a comeback. Mark my words.
They had plasma balls, like the plasma that you play with in the store. You touch your
plasma
fingers.
balls.
Yeah.
Plasma balls
telling me that it's healing people. I was like, I have those. Like, what are you talking about? But yeah, crazy stuff. All right. I think that's it for questions. We're good.
Yeah,
We
we're
are good. And we are at the end of our show. 2 hours. We went. We went a little. We're over by 2 minutes, which is great. I love that. And we've had a whole bunch of people stay with us. Somebody wanted to listen to you. I don't know who, but
I assume you paid them. You're like,
well,
hey,
yeah. I did pay for a Facebook ad. No, I didn't. I don't do that shit. All right. So where can people find you if they want to know more about your work and what you're doing and what you're up to?
Well, I am on the podcast Squaring the Strange, not Squirting the Strange, which I said earlier because I was tongue-tied. I have some more books. Yes, there you go. I'm occasionally on Twitter, on the Facebooks. You know where to find me. Skeptical Inquirer magazine. Those there and everywhere.
Those and there and everywhere. All right. Stick around for a few minutes. Just quick announcements. There's not too many. I'm not going to go into too many. But tomorrow night, if you're interested, I'll be posting links later on, probably tomorrow morning once I get them. But we are doing a Rochester event. You and I will be Zooming in.
I got to do this shit again?
Yes, you do, bitch. And just put up with it.
No, we had an agreement. No, the agreement was I would do this shitty show and I would show up and
so tomorrow night, and I think it's like 6:00 p.m. my time. So I think you're what time is it there?
Right now it's 8:00.
Okay, you're 2 hours behind me, so it'll be 4:00 your time.
I got nothing to do at 4:00 on a Saturday.
You got nothing to do. You got nothing to do. I know what you do. You spend your time in that room doing work just like I am. So I know where you are.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. So we'll be there at 6:00 Eastern, doing a Q&A with, again, what's the name of the place? Oh, I had it here. Oh, the Atheist Community of Rochester, the ACOR. Ooh,
ACOR.
Yeah. So I'll put a link up tomorrow morning, and I'll spread it around so people can see it. And that's pretty much it. If you're in the Buffalo area and we are cleared out of snow next weekend, the 27th, Saturday, I will be I'll be at the Beaver Meadow Nature Center, doing a eclipse safety and science class. So we'll be learning about the science behind eclipses and safety measures to view the eclipse from people that are actually experts in this field. So we're going to do that, and it's part of anyone can go. It's free. I can post links because you just have to register. That's all you got to do. It's free. And that's about it. I think that's really it for a little bit. I have a few things in the works, but I'm not going to announce anything else yet until I confirm it. So with that, this has been our show. You better get bundled up so you can, drive home in the snow and all that shit. But everyone, thank you for hanging out on this Friday night or
That's
Saturday
gonna be
morning.
me and Kenny in like 10 minutes.
Oh, nice. That's good. Have a good weekend and stay safe. And I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you come back next week. I don't know what we're doing next weekend. Next week, I think I have somebody. I don't know. You'll have to find out in a couple days when I actually post.
It'll be a surprise for everybody.
Even me. When I start, I'll be like, oh, I don't shit. All right, everyone, have a great weekend. You stick around. Don't drop out. Whatever. Everyone have a nice weekend. And remember, never stop learning. See you next week.
Bye, guys.